Hi, I'm Rebecca Barton, and this is my case study. So, the first thing is just a quick summary. Mrs. Wilson is the administrator at the school. She is not properly trained in administration, but more has just a certificate. Mrs. Horton is a veteran teacher there who's having some issues at home. These issues are transferring over into her work environment. She is yelling at students, she's not scheduling parent teacher conferences, and she's very confrontational with other staff members. She has a very bad attitude. Parents are requesting that their students be removed from her class. They've even gone so far as to call the administration office to discuss the matter. Mrs. Wilson has really let the situation get out of control and now is kind of unsure of what to do. So, category one, what we know. We know Mrs. Horton is a veteran teacher who was previously Teacher of the Year. Her behavior has quickly changed because of some issues that are not good at home. She's acted very inappropriately to other teachers. Parents are very angry and upset. They have complained to about Mrs. Horton that she's being verbally abusive to the kids in her class. Mr. Stafford has asked that his daughter be removed from her class, and they ended up setting up a meeting between him and Mrs. Horton and the principal, and that meeting did not go well. We also know about Mrs. Wilson, who is the principal. She has her administrative certificate. She's been very cautious about change, especially since this is her third year of this role. She ignored a lot of the warning signs from Mrs. Horton, has not really kind of handled the situation, kind of just has been hoping that it was going to go away. And then the superintendent has been getting calls about Mrs. Horton's behavior. We also know about Crestview Elementary School. It is located in a rural area. It is one of 3 elementary schools in the district. There are 18 classroom teachers plus other teachers like specials and speech and different things like that there. Teachers are very proud of their students' accomplishments because they have good attendance and they have really good test scores. Category one, this is what we need to know. So we need to know what the school policies are for dealing with teachers like Mrs. Horton. What are the steps to be taken in order to document this? What needs to happen now that this has been going on? Is there any documented information of Mrs. Horton's behaviors toward teacher? What are some of the other teachers saying about their interactions with her? We've heard that there's been bad ones, but are there, we need to go talk to the other ones and figure out what else is going on. What is Mrs. Horton's situation at home? Is it still the same? Is it better? Is it getting worse? Why is Mrs. Horton not having conferences? Is it not required by the district that she has these? And then, can Mrs. Horton move to a different school? Would that help the situation? Maybe can she take some time off right now? Identifying the problem. So we know that Mrs. Horton is having an extremely rough time at home. She's taking it out on students and team members. This is causing students to be afraid. She's yelling at students and other staff members. Parents are demanding a new classroom for their students because they don't feel like they should be in Mrs. Horton's classroom. And then we also know that there is a lack of attention by the principal. Category 2, proposed plan of action. So 1, Mrs. Horton needs to be put on a plan of improvement. That's going to include a daily improvement plan where she is meeting with the principal about guidelines and how things can improve from there. There needs to be routine observations, not only by the principal, but also by the superintendent, since the superintendent is currently aware of what's going on. There needs to be a full-time para in the classroom. That way there's an additional witness in there to things that are going on, and it also will help the kids feel safe. There also needs to be routine meetings with the principal, daily meetings and then weekly meetings, just to make sure things are staying on track. And then her employment needs to be reevaluated in May. If things are not better and she's refusing to change, then termination will have to happen. Second, we need to notify parents of the plan for Mrs. Horton. It's important that parents are aware of what's going on, especially those that are in her classroom. And then we also need to reassure them that the situation is being handled properly, quickly, efficiently. We also, for number 3, we need to constantly be in contact with administration. We need to keep the superintendent up to date on what's going on. And we need to make sure that they know what we're doing to fix this situation. Strategies for implementing the plan of action. It's important that we communicate with the staff and parents about the situation. They need to know what's going on, why we chose to do that, and they need to know the solution. What do we hope to gain from what we are doing? We also need to take a look at the board policies to make sure we know what can be done for teachers that act this way. And we also need to make sure that we're following the guidelines. Also, we need to have mandatory classes for Mrs. Horton. She needs counseling for situations that are going on at home. There needs to be some kind of anger management classes also to help with her anger. And we need to make sure that all of the staff and students are feeling safe when they come to school. Category 3, promoting the academic success and well-being of every student. So my plan of action does this by notifying all the parents in Mrs. Horton's class and my staff, and continuing to ensure that my students are in a safe environment. We are doing this by setting up a plan of action and making sure that we're reviewing the board policy on teachers to make sure we are following the guidelines and protocol on when situations like this happen. So, problem debrief. What was I thinking? I was thinking that students are not safe. They are not in a good environment. Why did things get so bad? Did things get worse at home to make the situation worse? Does she just not care anymore? Mrs. Horton needs to fix things or no longer teach, and there definitely needs to be more consistent walkthroughs in her room. What was I feeling? I was feeling very worried about the students. I was feeling very upset at Mrs. Horton for taking home life out on her students and staff. I was also feeling disappointed and frustrated that it got this far and that she chose to take her situation at home out on the work and the kids there. And then I was also feeling very determined to fix the problem. What was I valuing? Well, I was valuing that the students deserve a safe and nurturing environment to learn. I also value that they should feel safe. I also was valuing that parents have open communication and that they are communicating with what's going on. There are some unresolved issues. Parents are still upset, and that needs to be handled. Kids feel scared to be in her classroom. Can Mrs. Horton fix her attitude and classroom presence? The morale in the school is definitely changed and is an issue that needs to be solved. And there is untrust from the parents and students now, which is something that needs to be figured out. Reflection. So I, as the building leader, promoted first the success of all the students by making sure that there is an aide in the classroom, conducting routine observations, and putting Mrs. Horton on a plan of improvement. I also promoted the personal well-being of all students by putting the aide in the classroom, because this is ensuring that she's going to be on her best behavior. This is also ensuring that if something has happened, there's an extra person there to stand up for the kids and tell us what happened. Notifying the parents of the situation and ensuring that the situation does not ever happen again. And then also by keeping the superintendent in on what is going on. Component 3, enhanced instructional capacity by providing an aide in the classroom. This will allow the students to learn better because there is 2 teachers in there who are able to get to the curriculum and help support the students. By conducting routine walkthroughs in the classroom, and by making sure that Mrs. Horton is taking classes to improve on her teaching and fix her attitude.